we were talking this week. Oh, we didn't even talk about this topic, but we've decided to have a chat about small talk. And I just want to start out. Well, first of all, I want to hear your voice. Hello.
Hi, how's the weather over there?
It's so amazing and awesome. It's like threatening to rain, and it's my favorite kind of weather, besides the rain itself.
Right, the tease of it, the
Yeah.
wind and the overcast, the cloudy.
Yeah. It's so
For such a
exciting.
positive person, you like the gloomy weather.
I do. I do. How about you? How's the weather over at your place?
Oh, it's so nice. Just the whole atmosphere of the day. It's something about a rainy day is kind of like relaxing. It kind of takes the edge off. I don't know. It's one of those days where
Yeah.
you want to stay in your pajamas, uh, get under a blanket, watch a movie, bring your loved ones close.
Yeah. I feel the same way. So this is interesting that we got right into small talk because that's our topic. And it occurred to me this week, I had a lovely conversation with a person that I worked on a huge project with a few years ago, several years ago now, and we were basically glued to the hips for 3 years. And I really love this person. And through this conversation, it occurred to me there are so many benefits to small talk. And I hate to say this, I'm admitting it. I don't hate to, I used to brag about not liking small talk. And I'm ashamed of my stance. It was very arrogant. And it's kind of funny because I remember thinking, this is going to bite you in the butt, Lindy. You just watch. And sure
I
enough,
think you're
this week
being
it
too
was like,
hard on yourself.
whoa.
I think
Yeah.
you're being too hard on yourself. I think because you're so good at the deeper conversations that maybe you just don't look forward to the small talk because you're looking for something bigger.
Yeah, that's something I definitely used to tell myself.
Yeah, but small talk definitely has its advantages, and it's a good tool to use.
Oh, oh my gosh. I was in awe of all the benefits of the conversation that we had. And when I started thinking about it more, like I've been evolving the last few years, I wasn't as hard on it. I will engage in it, and I don't proclaim anymore. I hate small talk, but this really was an eye-opening um, thought process for me. I was really excited about it. So I was excited that you said, "Yeah, let's talk about it."
Yeah, it's a different topic. I mean, you're so busy using the small talk, you're not talking about what is small talk.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to ask. Well, before we got on the call, we did get to say that we came from opposite positions, and that was something I'd never heard before from you. So
Yeah.
explain.
Um,
How did you look at small talk?
so I definitely see myself as an introvert. I'm a social introvert, but uh, more to the point where um, I don't mind the small talk. I'll be social that way because it's safe. It's a way for me to dip my toes in the water before I take the plunge into a conversation with somebody, especially a stranger, because I don't know where that conversation's going to take me. And that's very scary to me. So I kind of put my boundaries up. So small talk is conversing with boundaries, it's non threatening. So I always feel safe, engaging in small talk. And then I kind of decide, like, do I feel safe enough to open up? Do I want to take things deeper? Um,
Well, and I think that's a really good process to go through for everybody. We
yeah,
should. I think it's super smart to do it that way.
it's kind of like a preemptive screening to see if the conversation is worthy of your time, especially like
Yeah.
now. Um,
Yeah.
we're also busy. We all we have so much stress and so much going on in our lives that to open up into a conversation it can be exhausting. Um, And it's inviting yourself to take on something, you don't know what it is, but you're
Oh
opening
my
a
gosh, another
door.
great point. Yeah. I never
You're
thought about
opening a
it that
door.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I have learned is, as an empath, we are sending out vibrations to the world that give those around us permission to pick up on those vibes, and then they open up to us, right? They feel welcome. And that can be really exhausting. So when you engage with a stranger, uh, we're leaving ourselves open to taking on more than we expect. And so,
True.
some small talk turns into a conversation now about this person's marital problems, their annoying boss, and you're like, oh, I didn't ask for that. Um,
Exactly.
but it is a good way to connect us with humanity in those short interactions, at the grocery store, out in our community. Um, I mean, it's so important. It really is.
Well, the thing that occurred to me the other day, it was, although I know and I just adore this friend, I really do. It's such a lovely way to keep that connection. We're just talking about the weather, but it's a way that we're making more of an exchange than just warm thoughts, because I do believe, like what you said, that we're sending out vibrations all the time, and I think we pick up on that. I think that's why it's an important, this is a whole nother topic about thinking well of each other, because I
Yes,
think
and
people pick up on that.
absolutely. So, what I was thinking, when we engage in these small talk conversations, especially with strangers, but not only strangers, um, it gives their existence value
Mm-hmm.
to our own lives, and we don't even know
Yeah.
how, but we're connecting um, on a level. They're somehow impacting us. They're impacting the world for sure, because we all are, and we don't even know how. But so those interactions are really important because we're connecting with humanity, and
Yes.
we're validating each other.
And with everything that's going on in the world right now, I think we need validation more than ever. And it's funny that small talk is an avenue that is pleasant, it's connecting, it's soothing. You didn't get into anything too deep. Like you said, sometimes
Right.
the conversation, somebody's looking to have a release, and that's not always a great thing.
No. Yeah, it's safe, and it doesn't have to be too personal.
Yeah, you don't have to give anything up.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely, I think, a skill that takes practice. And I think it's a gauge, really, because you are, small talk is, and even like you said, with this friend of yours who you've felt so close with for so long, well, now you've had some time pass. It's kind of a way to reconnect and check that gauge again, like, um, are we still in line, or where are you at in the world? And you kind of use it as a tool um, to see what else you want to allow in, right? To see,
Yes.
do we want to open this conversation up further?
Yeah, absolutely.
Find your
I think,
common grounds.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then through that, you usually find one little thread that's not in line, and you pull on that, and it leads to something else if you feel that continued safety, that continued calm.
Right, right. Um, and it's interesting that you say that because, yeah, what do you do when you like the small talk, you like where this is going? I'm so funny because I'll have these little interactions at the store, or talking to another mom at the school, and the conversation will end, we part ways, and I have this longing for like getting to know that person more, not wanting the interaction to end.
Aw, I love that.
And like, and that's why I think it is important to at least acknowledge, you pass somebody on the street, you say hi, you smile. Those interactions are really important, and they've changed my whole day before.
Oh,
Both ways,
absolutely.
right? You have somebody who doesn't, return a wave or something, and like could destroy your day. It sticks with you, or maybe that's just me. Uh,
No, I think it sticks.
so what do you do when you like where the conversation's going? You want to pull that thread and you want to go deeper and have a more meaningful conversation. Actually, I want to. Did you do that with your friend?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it ended up being very useful to me too. And I was thinking afterwards, it's so amazing to me how people find wonderful ways to support each other. And that's what he did. He found a way, we started off light and then we ended up talking about some really important stuff about planning for the future. So and he had so many wonderful ideas and tips, and I
Oh,
was in awe. Yeah.
I
Sorry,
like.
my phone just went off, and
Oh,
that was
that's okay.
not good.
Well, you're an important person. It happens.
Oh,
Uh,
stop, Ashley.
so even after all these years, and you guys don't have the same dynamic of your relationship as you did when you were working together, he still has interest in you. He still wants to support you. And that's really, I mean, that you've made a connection.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And there's something, that's what I was thinking about with the small talk. It binds us.
Yeah.
It gives us congruency. It gives us continuity. And I think that's really important. And that's why I'm such a big advocate on habits that you can count on, that get you through, the good and the bad. That's part of our holidays, part of our festive, part of humanity, I think, are those connections. And the small talk is a big part of that. I just can't believe that I used to think, it's horrible. And in reality, I did do a lot of small talk. So I don't.
So the difference is, I think, is who are you having the small talk with, and is it really truly small talk, or is it like I feel like um, your small talk with like your friend, it evolved because you guys have this deeper connection. I gotta say, I've had conversations with people I talk to on a regular basis, like on a weekly basis. I talk to the same person, but we literally have the same small talk conversation every time. We
Thank you.
never we
Okay,
never
that
go deeper,
bugs me.
and that's yeah. It's like why are we doing this? It's how are you? Fine. What's new? Nothing. And so we're not asking these open-ended questions. We're not asking for stories. We're not you know getting curious and trying to take it deeper. It's like you're checking boxes.
Do you remember to ask how the weather is
No, I
with
act.
those particular people?
I I mean we might if but those are the kind of questions. Yeah. So maybe not necessarily the weather because most of the people I talk to were having the same weather. So I'm
Yeah, but
I'm not worldly. I don't know too many people outside of my little
no, no, no. But
border, but
what's really cool about that question is the way people describe it. So it's kind of like, how are you? And every few years I would go through this thing. I'm not going to say fine. That's
right.
ridiculous. I'm going to tell them how I really feel. Or I'm going to give it some kind of cool adjective like, I'm dandy. How are you?
Right. But I think people when it it's how you're responding to those questions or how they're responding to those questions.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
are you leaving it open ended? Are you saying fine? And then that closes the conversation. There's no more to be said. Or are
Yeah.
you uh, giving a little bit more information for them to latch onto, or vice versa.
And what about getting creative with it?
Right.
So we're having the same weather, but how do you describe it? What was your experience with it? Did you even go out in it? Or are you
Right.
just enjoying it from inside? It's the same thing. It's the energy.
Yeah.
What are you putting into it?
Yeah. So like you asked me, how are you enjoying the weather? And I'll tell you, last night when the rain hit, it was probably, I don't know, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. All my kids came in my room to tell me that the rain
Aw.
had, well, all but one. And then we went into her room because she wasn't awake, but it was the loudest in her room. And so we all are surrounding her bed, watching out the window. She has no idea that it's going on. So this morning she heard about it and that we had all been in her room. She was mad at us because she missed out on it. We didn't wake her up. So that's better than just saying, yeah, it's raining over here,
Yeah, yeah.
That's
yeah,
my
you had
story.
some drama going on with that rain.
Yeah, there's
How
always
exciting.
more to be said, and there's always I don't know if that's a where you're putting your boundaries up, or if it's a self-confidence thing where you don't think it's interesting enough to tell when somebody asks you a question, that you just don't offer the information, right? And you say, I'm fine.
Oh.
So what is it that's preventing that deeper conversation, or that more intimate answer?
That's true too, because many times I've thought, oh, this may not be the place to, or they're not going to think it's interesting enough, or it's not appropriate, even though it's just about the weather.
Right. I don't know that person well enough to tell them,
About the weather.
the story, yeah, your story about it.
And
I
you know what's engaging, just real quick before you, what's wonderful about the story that you told, which your family did at 1 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
um, you painted a picture so I could see it in my mind's eye. And you gave me a moment where I felt like I was with your family in a non, like, smothering or weird, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that was, and it's safe to say everything you said. It's just awesome. But I also get more of, and I think that's what we're looking for, is that connection when we can see somebody struggling with something as simple as, the weather and surrounding, her bed, and then, she's mad because she didn't get to participate in it. And I'm in awe that you guys did not wake her up, because there's four of you. Was Chappie there too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack there, but I just had to bring that up. But I wanted to share too what cracks me up. Like I've had those conversations at the grocery store too. And of course, you start with something small. That's why I think I lied when I said that I didn't do small talk. And you brought a great point to it, like, who is it with? Because that makes a difference too. Those weekly conversations where you're checking off the boxes.
Yeah.
So, like, when you meet somebody new, you usually put more into it. And I would end up, you probably did too, in some huge universal discussion about how the aliens are, a big part of our culture now.
Right.
It'd be like, what? And I'd walk away totally like, my mind just got changed. The world looks a little different now. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and I mean it's honestly somebody giving you the time of day. They're for that few minutes making you feel like you really matter. And there's just some days where we're having a low day, and you come across somebody like that and it really lifts you. And
Yeah.
I think being a stay-at-home mom, it can be lonely. And so when I would have those interactions, it really meant a lot to me.
Oh my gosh. I would get in so much trouble because sometimes I disappeared for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to go to the grocery store. I knew it was all over when I found myself in the grocery store on a Friday night for the first time. And I was all alone. I had the babysitter, and because my husband traveled all the time. And this was like This was my date night, Friday night, the grocery store, and the coupons. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And who am I going to talk to? And you never know.
Right. You're guaranteed to run into somebody you know.
And somebody, or if you don't know them, somebody who may feel like we do, and they just want
Right.
to connect with somebody,
And
and
you
they want to
definitely,
talk.
yeah, you definitely find those. I always think it's so funny because the grocery store you think of is definitely one of those places. They're meant for small talk. You're not meant to have,
Yes,
but
the price of tomatoes.
I have found myself standing in an aisle for over an hour talking to people.
Yes,
And oh
yeah.
my, look at the time. I've only gotten halfway through my list. The kids are at home waiting. You go. But those are, that's where the small talk, when it evolves into something bigger, you never expected. And that's,
Yes,
I think that's where I was going with it. Allowing yourself to stay open minded, to not have an expectation about the conversation, but to stay open to anywhere where it might take you. So, a conversation about the weather led to this crazy antics of my family, you know,
yeah.
and I do want to say I appreciate the no judgment when I told the story because, that was you staying open and just hearing my story, not saying, why were your kids up at 1 o'clock in the morning? you know?
Oh my gosh, I never even thought that. Why are you thinking that, Ashley?
No, but there are people, and that can really close off a conversation, right? That
Yeah.
would make me
Yes.
shut back down, and then now that invitation's been closed. And so that's
Yes.
why it is important when you want these your small talk to evolve into a deeper conversation, something more meaningful. It's important to keep an open mind, and to get curious, ask questions, um, listen to their story, and
Well,
then
you bring up a good point too, the non-judgment. When we're a novice, when we're in the amateur mentality, we don't judge because we don't know the rules.
right,
And how can we ever know the rules with another person?
right, absolutely. They're not. So that's where small talk. It's not. You're not asking for an answer to a question. You're wanting to
Yeah.
hear a story. You're wanting to hear a journey. You know, don't look at it as answering a question
Yes.
because there's no right or wrong answer, and you definitely don't want a yes or no. You want to hear the
Well,
journey.
and I also love the piece about really engaging in it, like shaking it up, giving more, like you just telling the story. I was so impressed. I watched a small clip on Paul Newman describing Elizabeth Taylor this week on YouTube. And they have clips of her of when she was a kid. And one thing that Paul Newman said is that when she was on screen, when the camera was rolling, what he was so impressed about was that she shared herself. She was she didn't hold anything back. And I think that's something we don't do. Maybe that's what I didn't like about small talk. I don't like the humdrum, fine, how are you?
Right.
I really want to know, in something that is safe, your description of the weather, and sharing the story made it personable. Gave me an understanding of you, made me feel closer to
Oh,
you in a safe way,
yeah.
right?
So I think it's really important. If you dare to go deeper, you have to be ready to get honest. You have to give permission to allow these people to come into your life and
Yes.
be open. And so now you guys are sharing a more intimate conversation.
Yes.
And so that's you gotta feel relaxed. You gotta feel safe. And that's what the small talk is about, right? It's about feeling those gauges of if you're comfortable or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Finding that common ground, finding out what's appropriate or not, and then to see, you kind of see. Now, I love it when, and you're really good at it, is when um, the conversations just, even keel, and then you'll throw something to kind of uh, tip the numbers a little, right? Like, tip the what do they call that? The Richter scale, to kind of shake things up, to kind of let's make it more exciting. Let's push the envelope there. And that's always fun when you have somebody in the conversation that does that, because it pushes you to open up even more.
I feel like you're really good at that too.
Oh.
When does it happen for you? Like, when do you notice that you've done that? I call them the arrows of truth.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be for me. It's an intuition, and a lot of times it comes out of my mouth faster than the the intuition and the thought process inside.
I like
So
that though. You're not thinking too much about it and you just see what happens. It rolls the dice.
yes,
So I was going to say I don't see myself doing it that often because one, I don't have a lot of people that I engage in these kind of deeper conversations where we really get to the bottom. I always feel like a lot of my conversations is catching up with people because I don't have um, like we never need to catch up. We talk so often, you know. It's always an
yeah,
ever evolving conversation. Other people it's like you have to run through the checklist and then by that time it's like okay, we'll catch you
I'm
next
tired.
time. Yeah.
I'm done with you.
And so it doesn't really have that opportunity. And then I also am very self-conscious that any idea I might throw out might get rejected. So I'm a little less free with my thoughts depending on who the person is. So I have to feel really comfortable with, um, throwing a wrench in the conversation to see where it goes.
Then I have to tell you that I am deeply humbled and thank you so much because I remember right from the get go, I don't know you any other way.
Right.
And we have always had engaging conversations.
From the day we met, from the day your son brought me home to you and we
I was thinking the same thing.
I think I was in my pajamas. It was pretty late
Yep.
at night. I think my car had broken down or I got a flat tire. He came and picked me up and then we sat at the dining room table and played board games. And
Yeah.
it was like an instant connection and the conversation was great and I never felt beneath you. I felt we were always equals. You treated me like, not a parent and child, but everybody at the table was equal. And I just loved that. It was so much fun. And it was an
Oh,
instant
I love that.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So just
Yeah, so
a
I've
reminder
never
to all
known
of
you.
our listeners, Lindy is my mother-in-law. I am married to her son.
We were keeping that secret.
But we are so much more than that.
Yes, yes.
And we definitely don't have your stereotypical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. It's,
Absolutely not. So blessed.
yeah.
Really blessed. Yeah. It's an amazing relationship. But and getting back to it, right from the get-go, you asked provoking questions. You're very engaged with the conversation and I just love the places that you come from.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I do like to ask questions, and I am one of those who I don't, I believe that there is no such thing as a dumb question. They may sound dumb, but as long as you're getting the information that you need, it was necessary to ask. Um,
Yeah.
and I
You're
think,
kind of like a litigator.
yeah,
But in a good way. I mean that with like that's a high opinion.
yeah.
I hope you know that.
I
That's
do,
my
I do.
comment
I
is like
take
that's
it as a
awesome.
compliment, and yeah, my goal is always to get to the truth.
Mm.
um, I think it's really important to. Oh, there it goes again. What did we say before that?
Oh, there it goes.
Oh man.
Oh, we were talking about provoking questions, the
Oh yeah.
conversation.
So I do tend to hijack a conversation, but to to talk less, listen more, allow the conversation to flow freely, um, to hear those. You said something before though that had uh, made me think of this, and now I don't have the example, but uh,
Well, you brought up a good point because I think that's the other thing that small talk is good for. It's it gives us practice for those other conversations, right? Like it gives us like we could take that time when we're just chit-chatting at the convenience store for 5 minutes to practice actively listening. Like
right,
instead of just doing the real quick thing and then do say something. I mean, you don't have to have a full blown conversation, but yeah, comment, oh, I'm dandy, or I'm super. Oh, I can't say that. I better not even try. I was going to say a Mary Poppins line.
oh,
But anything that is out of the box that gets their attention, and then you get that wonderful smile.
right,
And it's that smile that I see you, I see the real you, and you get to smile back, I see the real you, and it only has to be a moment.
right.
And I think that's what you were talking about in the beginning of this.
Yeah, be
That,
present, show that you're interested, and you
mm-hmm.
get that validation.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, the man is looking in the mirror. That every time that we can give that to somebody else, it always comes back.
Right.
Always. Validate forward.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think, um, and even the small talk with that person you know, I think it's important to anticipate discovering something new and interesting
Yes.
about the other person. Like, I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn something new, whether it be about you, something that you've learned you're really good at passing on information that you are taking in. Um, and so that's always interesting to me. So that's to me beyond small talk, right? You're not when I say what's new, um, when you go deeper and you tell me about these new things that you're learning or practicing, um, we've gone beyond small talk. So I think it's really
Oh,
important how you
yeah.
label small talk. What you really it's when you get those uh, yes no answers. You're not present. You're not giving good body language. You're not into it. That's to me small talk. You're just checking
Right.
boxes. When you take
Yes.
it deeper, like you did with your friend, and you still called it small talk because you're talking about the weather and how are you? But when you're getting that deeper information, I think you've evolved beyond small talk.
Absolutely. I think perhaps it was the description. And I'm glad to have evolved past this. This is part of what I love about being alive today. We're finding new terms, new names for
Right.
things that we
We
never
get so
had before.
stuck in labels.
Exactly. And the one other thing I wanted to add to our conversations, I love that. We learn something new about each other or we bring something new to the conversation. And my very, very favorite is when that blends together and the conversation could not be without the other. And it evolved to a whole, like the conversation is its own entity.
Right.
Does that make sense
Yes.
to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's like when you're really dancing together.
Yeah. We're melding our ideas, we're growing from them. And that's really, I mean, that is the point of a conversation. If you wanted to be stuck in your ways and only um, talk about yourself or um, share your ideas and your viewpoints, that's not a conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of see a conversation, and maybe that's the small talk, is that you get in alignment. The vibration starts like clicking together. So you're almost like leapfrogging off of each other. And then when you come away, you're changed. Your vibration has
Yeah,
changed.
it's definitely
And because
raised.
two or more, yeah, two or more in that same vibration empowers us,
Right.
gives us energy. That's the joy juice.
There
That's
you
my word
go.
this week. That's my statement for the
Your
week.
joy juice there. So, are you under the influence of joy juice? And that is
Absolutely.
a great way to get out of uncomfortable small talk and into a meaningful conversation. Is you're gonna find pleasure triggering questions, things that spark joy and curiosity, uh, and sip on that joy juice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think this is interesting too. In the small talk, sometimes what do you do when it does get hijacked into that negative realm? Like somebody just starts going off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is probably a whole nother podcast, but it popped in my head.
I like yeah, we always have to be thinking. That's really good. And that's where I think so whose vibrations are stronger? And we talked about this a little bit last the last podcast is what are you putting out? So if they're starting to get negative, can you double on the positive? Can you try to grab the
Say that they
wheel
totally
back?
over. No, you can't. They're completely like, or say they're three quarters. Boom.
Yeah. So do you give yourself permission to walk away or do you stay you know, the polite thing to do is to stay engaged in the conversation, but you could always cut and run, right?
Or maybe shoot one of those arrows of truth.
Mm.
I mean, just for like for kicks and giggles.
So
Like, why are we take it so
ask a
seriously?
deeper question. You know, why do you feel such anger towards this topic, or why does it make you feel so negative? Try to turn it around on them. Point out that they're being, you know, there are. I mean,
Or how about I only wanted to talk about the weather. Like, I am sorry that you've got all this going on,
yeah,
but I'm a weather person. I'm just
yeah. Good luck with that. I'll see you next week. No.
That's happened to me a few times.
Yeah, it is. It is hard because you will come across people who they just do tend to find negativity in even the weather. You know,
Exactly.
my shoes got wet or my umbrella got wet. I had to use the windshield wipers today. Like, you know, they're gonna find
Oh yeah.
something wrong. Um, so one, you don't let them bring you down. Don't let that interaction affect your day. And that's a really mindful thing you have to do because it's so easy and so contagious to go, oh, you know what? Yeah, there was a big puddle that I stepped in, or, you know, and then you start thinking about it. So to stay positive, um, it's not your responsibility to find their happiness.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is to realize when I'm going down that path
Yeah.
because sometimes it's very insidious. Like it just starts rolling,
Yeah, and as
right?
a lot of times we give it we nourish those feelings from other people. We allow it to happen,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then
We
it's out
let
of
the boundary
control.
down.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I say, you know, try to grab the wheel, try to turn the conversation back to where it was before it derailed. Or maybe, you know, like we use a lot with our littles and sometimes our bigs, the art of distraction.
Yes. Squirrel.
Yeah,
Yeah. I tend to do that. And the reason it popped in my head was because of keeping that conversation alive. If it's the same thing, checking the boxes.
yeah,
What would happen if you call it out, went straight for it?
right. So I think with people that we know, it's a little bit easier because you know the people pretty well. You know,
Hmm.
the more you know somebody, you know their um, joy juice. So the things they want to talk about. So you could easily flip a conversation by bringing up a topic that you know they will talk positively about. With a stranger, I think it's a little more difficult to do, but I think then you have also more freedom to walk away. politely say, "Oh, look at the time. I must be going," and
And I think
squeeze
that's
out
a
of there.
great opportunity, yeah, to again to practice those muscles
Yeah.
because a lot of us don't have those
No,
skills.
it's
How to
uncomfortable. Nobody wants to
yeah,
be
it
uncomfortable,
is.
and a lot of times small talk can be really uncomfortable. But I think that's because, yeah, we're out of practice. We don't know how to navigate those conversations, especially with strangers, because you don't know anything about them. You don't know their triggers. You don't know their joy juice. Uh, it leaves you very vulnerable, but it also leaves you with an easy escape.
Well, I also think that it's important to gauge it when it is going south, to think about what the experience is going to be later. Because if it's not good for you, it's probably not good for them. And if they don't notice, it's not important to them.
Right.
So why are we spending our time? And that's really big to me because I always thought putting up with it was I'm giving to them. Like I'm doing this. Well, no, really you're just hurting
Yeah.
yourself. And it's they're going to leave with a bad juju too.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think we're not as mindful of the time we waste or the energy we waste um, with our. I know it's
Yeah.
going to come out wrong with our intentions, right? But I mean, really understanding we all have expectations, we all have intentions, but we only control our side of that.
Right. Right.
And so that's why it's important to um, be open and honest with each other because you're going to find out like they're on a totally different page than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Well, I think our conversation kind of derailed. Did I do that one?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I was just thinking though, it's funny because we come back around to talking about the same thing, but it's the same kind of principle. It's still energy
Yeah.
to me. So that's where I kind of
Well,
got
I
lost
think
in my
that's
head.
why it circles and a lot of our conversations does that and that's because I mean that's the
It really is about paying attention, isn't it?
yeah, there's a lot of common themes in all of our conversations that we've had on these podcasts is honesty. Um,
Yeah.
uh, what did you just say? Energy. Did you say energy?
Yes.
Our energy, what we're giving, paying attention to ourselves and being mindful of what we're giving because that's what we're in control of. Um, it's like putting your best foot forward. You're always, um, but these common themes because that's what makes the world go round. Really, that's the juice of it is these are the things that really matter.
Yeah, and I think you're on to something with the time, the wasted time. Um, because we're the nurturers, we're the givers. I mean, I could say that about you and I know that. And we take care of other people. And that was one of the questions that came up this week is um, that when you're always in that caretaking mode, and we've talked about this before, we don't take care of ourselves. So what the overflow of that is different than if we were taking care of ourselves. And I don't think we recognize, like with now identifying what small talk is and what I really didn't like are the time wasters.
Right.
And I did, I could see how big it is. So I think that on the peripheral of my understanding, I knew it wasn't a great thing because I'm throwing that time
You're
down.
not getting
But the
anything
guilt
from it.
trips, exactly, and the guilt trips of not engaging in the mindless stuff is big because I've been trained, well, it's selfish to do that, to think about yourself. It's selfish to be really present and have an honest conversation and being able to say, this isn't working right now, or derailing it in a nice way, like you just back away, I've got to get going, or, I'm not good at those. I wish I could, because that's a nice way of just disengaging.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that we can't have that conversation later, that we can't pick up. And here's another thing that's real important to me, being in the energy that you want to share and that you want to give. So when you're not in a great space, I'm not a big fan of sharing that,
Mm.
like dumping on
Right.
other people. Because that creates a bad experience as well.
Right. So that's like de-escalation tactics.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's protecting
And I think
yourself, it's protecting others to, and that is setting a boundary that says, I'm not going to go there. And at the same time, you're protecting them. I don't want you to go there either.
right, right. And I think it's important to say that because that's all part of it, right? It's the pre-paving is okay. I'm gonna be more mindful of my conversations, and also if it starts going south, I'm going to acknowledge that. And if it goes, be open to wherever it's going to go. But you don't have to stay engaged. And to me, it's important to discuss that part because really, I let it happen, and I would say, "Oh, I didn't know it was going there."
Right.
But I think we have to think those things through because it's it's like the whole, if somebody in the job is not performing up to what they were hired for, then it's not good for the team. And instead of keep giving and giving and giving, it's easier to cut them off. It's a lot of times people will feel sorry for them. They're not going to be able to get another job. But in reality, you're holding them hostage to something that they're not in their best place for. Let them
Right.
go. And so thinking about that in the conversation, like that's an old concept, 20 years in my head at least. So I can understand it. I think I had to put it in the terms of the conversation to get it as well.
It's hard to cut those ties when you're emotionally connected to the people, but you've evolved away from each other. You're no longer in
Yeah.
alignment. And so we do allow ourselves to uh, hold those conversations um, out of obligation. And yeah, it's not benefiting either, but maybe both parties are feeling it, and the other person is also afraid of um, being
Letting go.
honest and yeah, um, just saying like we're not really getting anything from this, and they might appreciate it, or at least it's all about being respectful. Nobody wants to
Yes.
hurt their feelings, and I'm guilty of uh, ghosting people that I've felt that way about. I have a friend that we've been friends since first grade, so 30 years or something,
Wow.
and in the last 4 years, I have ghosted her. I just one day I decided I'm not going to keep engaging in this. It makes me feel bad because I know it's all about checking boxes, and I'm not, and I was feeling bad. Like, I don't feel like you're really my friend anymore. We've grown apart. She didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong except for ghosting her, which I'm admitting to. That is very wrong. I don't condone that at all. But I wasn't brave enough to say anything. And bless her heart, she reaches out a few times a year. She's never given up trying to talk to
Oh,
me. She's a good person. We just um, have grown apart.
grew in
Yeah, and
different
and
spaces.
she's a
Yeah.
very interesting person. She's got an interesting life. Um, she's friendly. She's fun. She's very lovable. But every time we were together, I didn't have that spark. I just was like, we're so different, and um, at a different level of friendship than I wanted or had the time for. It's so silly to be like, oh, I don't have time for friends. Well, there is a point in your adulthood that you realize friends are really hard to keep. Who has time for all that?
Right, because you have to have a common something.
Right. And so I just stopped talking to her, and that was really wrong. I should have let her know. And maybe this will inspire me to reach out to her in some form and just say, hey, you didn't do anything wrong. You're amazing. I'm really sorry that I did that to you. And if I made you feel like you had done something wrong, this is how I feel. And I probably should do that. And if she ever hears this, know that I love you deep in my heart forever. And I'm sorry for hurting you. I wasn't brave enough to say those words. And so I ran away.
I love that.
But
I love that.
She would probably have respected me if I had just said, like, you don't have to work so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I felt like I was just in her day planner every, couple weeks or something, check on Ashley, and she would do that. And that's how I felt. And, and it might even open other doors, right? Being honest like that. I may have learned something.
Absolutely.
Why it was the way it was. But we don't know unless we're honest. And what did you say about shooting truth arrows?
Yes.
I think we'll learn a lot. The more we are brave enough to be honest and unapologetically tell people how we feel respectfully.
Yes.
And see what information comes from that.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I feel like we got through a lot.
We did. So this is like 2 podcasts. We went over time a lot with a lot of really good information and insights. I'm excited that you were very, I don't know if insecure is the right word, but I could tell that you weren't so sure about the topic because it maybe wasn't spicy enough, but look at it. I liked it. It was fun.
I think that's what it was because of the story I told myself. First of all, that's what I discovered today. I think I did do a lot of small talk. It was just labeled wrong. It was the bad small talk I'm talking about, right? And there's so many benefits, and talking about it is exciting. Yeah, I have a newfound exhilaration thinking about the next conversation with anybody.
And seriously. You've opened me to.
I want to try this
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I can't wait to see how I can make it more exciting with my answer, kind of throw them off guard, right? So the next person that I talk to who is going to try to pull me into that boring small talk, I'm going to throw a curveball.
Throw a truth arrow.
Yeah.
Shoot a truth arrow.
Shoot a truth arrow.
Ooh,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. See where it takes us. I like that. So that is our goal for the week, our challenge.
Awesome.
Shooting truth arrows, derailing conversations, pulling people in
derailing
deeper.
Conversations and shooting truth arrows. Yeah.
We're a menace to society.
Oh my gosh, no, we're not. We're Avengers.
We're shaking up the world.
Shaking up the tree Avengers.
There you go.
I don't know, something. Avenging Avengers. Whatever. Okay, that's really goofy. That's okay. I've lost my noodle. I've never done that. You know that saying I always say to the kids, you got to use your noodle before it turns to strudel. What happens if you lose your noodle?
Oh no.
There is no strudel. God.
That's funny. Yeah, it's Friday. Thanks for listening to In Broad Daylight. If there's a topic you want us to tackle, you can email us at inbroaddaylight.podcast@gmail.com. Until next time.